Good morning. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officers meeting of September 11th, 2013. My name is Vileza Mataitis, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have one case on today's agenda, and the relevant exhibits are posted on the panels directly behind me. The hearing will proceed as follows. The description of the application or request will be read. The reports and comments received from other city departments and other letters and communications from interested parties will also be then read. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case. The applicant will be asked to come forward, and you have a 15-minute period to present your case. Others in the audience who wish to speak will then have 3 minutes. The applicant will be given an opportunity for rebuttal, and the hearing will be closed and the case taken under submission, and a decision will be rendered. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice either by speaking at the hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their names and address. Note that the decision of the date on the letter will be the decision date, and appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to our planning staff. I would also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing, officers hearing, are recorded and are part of the public record. Okay. The one and only case on today's agenda is conditional use permit case number PCUP 1312886. It is a conditional use permit for beer and wine. The project address is 901 West Glen Oaks Boulevard for Ara's Tacos and Zanku Chicken. The applicant is Steve Iskandarian. The case planner is Vista Izati. Please, if you don't mind.
Good morning, and thank you, Ms. Samatitis. The application is for a conditional use permit to allow the on-site sales, service, and consumption of beer and wine at existing fast food restaurants. The project is exempt from CEQA as a Class 1 existing facility. The project site is located in the northwest corner of Highland Avenue and Glen Oaks Boulevard and is approximately 13,160 square feet. It's developed with a one-story, 3,375 square foot commercial building with a total of 21 on-site parking spaces located to the west and to the rear of the existing building. Presently, there are 2 fast food restaurants operating inside the building with a shared dining area. Access to the property and parking is from both Glen Oaks Boulevard and Highland Avenue. This prominent intersection features low-scale retail buildings on each corner that serve the surrounding residential neighborhoods as well as the local community. No major concerns were received from the various city divisions or departments for the existing restaurants to serve beer and wine. Suggested conditions made by police department, neighborhood services, and the fire department have been included in the conditions of approval to ensure that any potential negative impacts will be appropriately mitigated. No other city departments had comments regarding this application. Staff did receive a petition from approximately 21 residents in the adjacent neighborhood opposing this application. Their concerns were related to parking, noise, and safety. Staff also received a letter in opposition from a nearby resident citing similar concerns as the petition, as well as concerns relating to existing issues with other nearby businesses. Both of these documents have been included in the file for your review. The applicant is requesting approval of a CUP for the sale, service, and on-site consumption of beer and wine at 2 existing fast food restaurants located in a shared tenant space. According to city records, the existing site has operated with both fast food restaurants utilizing separate kitchen facilities since approximately 2008. The subject site is located in the C2 Community Commercial Zone, and general plan land use element designation is community services. Goods and services offered in the C2 zone generally attract clientele from the neighboring residential neighborhoods as well as local community. The sales, service, and consumption of beer and wine at this location is appropriate in an area of the city zoned for commercial uses. A fast food restaurant use provides an option for the dining public to enjoy beer and wine with their meals. The application does not include any added floor area or modifications to the existing building. Therefore, adequate utilities, landscaping, and traffic circulation measures are already provided for. The applicant's request for the sales, service, and consumption of beer and wine at the existing restaurant does not require additional parking by code and should not increase parking demand. Excuse me. The project site's located within the Community Services Land Use Element designation of the general plan, where retail and service uses along major traffic arterials like West Glen Oaks Boulevard are desired. The applicant's proposal at the two existing fast food restaurants is an ancillary use to the primary use and is consistent with the land use element and objectives of the general plan. Based on the floor plan submitted, there is no bar area on site. In addition, the applicant is not proposing to host any happy hour for alcoholic beverage sales. The hours of operation for both fast food restaurants will be from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m., 7 days a week. No public facilities are located within the immediate area. However, there are some public facilities located within a mile radius of the property. While these facilities are within close proximity, they are located outside of the immediate neighborhood. The applicant's request for a CUP at this location will not be a detriment to the safety and public welfare of the neighborhood as conditioned, since the service of beer and wine is generally viewed as just a common extension of a restaurant use. Both restaurants will continue to operate in the same manner with on-site sales, service, and consumption of beer and wine to be complementary to the primary use. The establishment is located in Census Tract 3012.06. The suggested limit for this tract is 5 for on-sale establishments. There are currently 2 active on-sale licenses in this tract. The request by the applicant, if approved, would be the 3rd on-sale license for this tract. According to the city's Part 1 crime statistics, there were 41 crimes reported in the census tract in 2012, and that is 32% below the citywide average of 60. Within the last calendar year, there were 5 calls for police service. 3 of the calls for service were for the previous business Sidewalk Cafe, and the other 2 calls were for Zonku Chicken. There were no reports taken. Staff believes that all of the findings for the conditional use permit can be made and therefore recommends approval of this entitlement. Staff suggests the planning hearing officer consider the attached draft findings and conditions for approval. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Audi. At this point in time, I'd just like to go over the comments from the various departments. And as noted in your presentation, comments from the police department included 5 calls for service within the last year, but 3 of those calls for service were for the Sidewalk Cafe, which is no longer in operation, which has been taken over by Ours Tacos, actually. Yet the police have also included 13 recommended conditions of approval, which some of them appear to have been included in staff's conditions of approval. And a few items that I further in discussion with the applicant we will take a look and see, such as the hours of operation. And this is in a census tract that is under-concentrated with alcohol beverage sales licenses and in a lower crime rate. In regards to code enforcement, there appears to be an unresolved issue with a sign permit. And there are also issues with regards to illegal construction of fencing within the front setback that's more recently done than as noted in the staff report. So we'll go ahead and address that in discussion with the applicant. Comments regarding fire, it just says that there are code violations that were addressed in an inspection report that need to be also corrected. So with that said, there are no other specific comments from other departments. Now, the applicant on record is actually Mr. Steve Iskandarian. I do not see a card from him, so...
Patrick Penzolo here for you.
Okay, so Mr. Patrick Penzolo, if you don't mind coming up to the the podium. And are you representing the applicant? Are you representing the owner? Or
Good morning. I'm representing the applicant, Mr. Steve Iskandarian.
Okay.
And my name is Patrick Panzarello. I live in the Sun Valley area here in California. I'm very familiar with the Zanku chickens. I've been a very close friend of the family for the past 11 years. I'm actually a restaurant consultant where I do a lot of the plans and permitting and licensing for such restaurants, and I've done a lot of their recent stores and such. The family owns and operates 9 locations, 2 of them here in the city of Glendale. Our first location was over on Colorado Boulevard and Verdugo Avenue. It's still there operating. And we opened this location now in question on Glen Oaks about 6 years ago. We recently had the opportunity to take over the lease of the Sidewalk Cafe, which was one of our competitors inside the space, too. And Mr. Iskandarian operating for the past 6 years, there's been some conflicts about how to keep the place upkept and some other issues regarding the operation of the site that he couldn't come to head with the other owner of the property, who's sharing the space with him. But now he's in full control of the location, full control of the property, too. Mr. Iskandarian did a beautiful concept with the former Sidewalk Cafe and put in Ara's Tacos. And as he was doing it, I asked him about a possible beer and wine license for this location. They're always asked for beer and wine at their chicken locations, but it's not that often, very rare. But on the first week that Ara's Tacos was open, he had over a dozen customers ask him if he was going to be adding beer and wine now that he has the Mexican restaurant food there, too. And that's when he consulted with me, too, and decided this would be a good location to come in with a beer and wine license. We've applied for a beer and wine license for the state alcoholic beverage control, and it's just for one license on the property, and because Mr. Iskandarian owns and operates both locations, and it's going to be utilized as under one license. It's not uncommon with the ABC to see this in some food court areas and such also. We've also been vetted by the ABC. We posted the sign, did a second mailing to the neighborhood, and we've also done a publication also as required. As stated before, this is an underserved area for beer and wine licenses according to the census tract. This is a heavily developed thoroughfare through a bedroom community, but Glen Oaks is heavily developed. As a matter of fact, there's a brand new shopping center under construction now directly across the street from us. The beer and wine license, as stated by the planning staff, is an amenity. It's just an addition to the use of the restaurant use. It's a common sense issue because the restaurant opens at 10 a.m. and serves full lunches and serves full dinners too and closes at 10 p.m. And beer and wine sales is very common. It lends not only to additional profit for the owner, but also lends desirability and convenience to the patrons that are using the amenities and the facilities on site, too. There's no proposed changes at all, except adding some additional items to the menu. The beer and wine sales will be conducted solely on site. No beer and wine will ever leave the property boundaries. We are proposing beer and wine sales for the interior 99 seats and the additional 56 seats on the 2 patios that border Highland and also Glen Oaks Boulevard. There is no live entertainment proposed at all. There's no separate bar or lounge, no seating where only alcohol can be served. No beer and wine sales is proposed to be served without a food order, but that's hard to control in a busy restaurant. But it's not the intention of the applicant to serve beer and wine, too. Our concern, though, is some of the neighbors have voiced some concerns and such, too. And one of the major concerns they're voicing is the overflow of our parking from the parking lot onto Highland Avenue. And unfortunately, that sometimes happens to a busy location. And there are things that they brought to my attention that we can certainly modify. One concern is that a lot of our employees are parking on Highland. And what I recommend for the owner to do is put together a carpool plan where employees that can carpool will be scheduled for the same shift. You can maybe bring additional people in, less cars coming to the area whatsoever, too. Another issue, too, is to train our employees how to park properly on the street. It was brought to my attention this morning that sometimes they'll park in a way where a car can't park in front of them or behind them, and they're taking up 2 parking spaces instead of just 1. So that's a matter of educating our employees, too. Another issue is brought to me by a neighbor also. Sometimes there's trash on the sidewalk, and sometimes in the gutter and such. And I know the planning department has conditioned that about loitering and also littering. But I recommend also for the owner also to implement one of the managers to walk the entire premises every hour, and just check for trash and loitering too. And that could be something that we volunteer as a condition. I've read the 31 conditions that the planning department has proposed for our use, and we volunteer all of those conditions. The planning department has also recommended a 5-year term grant on the request, where in 5 years we bring the whole package before you again, and we can monitor the operation, the responsibility of the operation, and monitor any additional concerns that may come up from the neighborhood that might be mitigated through additional conditions and such. At this point, I have nothing further to offer. We are a bona fide restaurant with 2 full kitchens, more kitchens you'd see in a normal restaurant. And our primary goal is to sell food. The beer and wine is merely an amenity for the convenience and desirability of our patrons. And we are being asked this almost daily now with the mixed food menu. So we appreciate an approval on this too. And the applicant is a very responsible individual. Him and his family are invested in the city. They live in the city. They also, most of the employees that work for us live in the city. So a lot of feedback is going back into the city. The family is also very involved through their church with feeding a lot of the homeless people. And they themselves donate their own time and hand out food almost monthly to different people throughout the state. So we hope that you can support us in this matter. And I'd like to turn it over to anybody else who'd like to say any few words.
Thank you very much. I might actually call you back for further questions.
And just so you know, the applicant, Mr. Iskandarian, just walked in also, so he may be able to answer some questions too that may arise.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. I know perhaps Mr. Iskandarian, I'm not sure if you'd like to say a few words at this point in time or catch your breath and then come back.
Do a card.
Please. Okay,
Good morning.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Steve Iskandarian. Address of the business is 901 West Glendale Boulevard in Glendale, 91202. We moved in to this property maybe 4 or 5 years ago as a subtenant of Sidewalk Cafe. Sidewalk Cafe was there, and we were leasing part of the space from them pretty much. And when we moved in, the place was a dump. No lights in the parking lot. There was a sewer smell coming out of the restroom. We found out later that it was a water heater on top of the roof. We had to do a smoke test just to find out where that smell was coming from. I had a dozen different people come and they couldn't find it. There were no lights in the parking lot, meaning that the parking lot lights were not working, so it was dark. You had a lot of younger people hanging out there, loitering at night. And when I say the place was dirty, I mean the place was dirty. We came in and we cleaned the place up a lot. We got rid of a lot of the riffraff that was there. There was a lot of riffraff there. For some reason, this corner attracts a lot of younger crowds that want to loiter, and I believe it has a lot to do with the 7-Eleven. I feel like they've just got nowhere else to go. They go there, they're open late, they buy their cigarettes or whatever, and they just hang out there. And it's a pretty troublesome corner. The corner we're on no longer is that because we cleaned it up. We got rid of the riffraff using Glendale PD, which is probably like the best police department I've ever seen. And I believe we turned into an asset to the community because we really cleaned the place up. There's no more younger crowds there that loiter. We turned into a place where families come and dine now, when you didn't really see that before. But you see a lot of families coming there now because the place is a lot more welcoming, because it's run by better operators like me. Because Sarawak Cafe went out of business. They went out of business for a reason. They didn't know what they're doing. You know, it changed hands a few times. But as they were going out of business, the descent was not only financial, but it was morally, it just wasn't good either. For the people that were working there, or for the customers, or for the people living around the area, you know. I just want to say that we're very happy and proud to be in Glendale. This is our second store in Glendale. Our first store in Glendale we opened up 20 years ago. The reason I opened up this place, I actually went against my family's wishes. They didn't want to do it. But I really believed in the location. I mean, it's a beautiful building. It was a shame the way it was. It was a shame the condition it was in when we got there. But you know, the reason I did it is because I kind of wanted to put Glendale on the map. I mean, I'm very proud to be from Glendale. And I see a lot of other chefs trying to do things in Glendale, and makes me feel like I would like to be the one to do something in Glendale. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And also, I have letters here. Going back to what my friend Patrick mentioned about the church. We did start a church about 5 years ago in Ontario, and I have letters from them here. I'd like to give it to you, if I may.
Please, if you don't mind handing it to our staff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hasmik Nazarian, please.
Hi, my name is Hasmik Nazarian. I live at 1013 Highland Avenue, Glendale 91202. We called many times to the police department because of noises. That was before, months before, when a Sidewalk Cafe was there. They were very busy. I assume this business, Zanku Chicken and Aras Tacos, they are not that busy. They don't have, there is no noises outside. We don't have complaint about that. But we have problems with parking, not their customers, because they have no control over their customers, but their employees. They park from 10 in the morning until 10 at night. They take 2 spaces for 1 car, and they leave the employees, not the customers, their trash on the sidewalk. They throw it there, or they put it there and then take the car and drive away. And we even went to inside the cafe and told them. My neighbor's daughter, she went there and told them, I saw your employee put the trash on the sidewalk and then drove away. So that's all our concerns mostly. And the noises, if they have this permit, they're gonna have more customers probably, and it's gonna be noisy again, and we have to call the police all the time again. Before it was, we called people earlier, when Sidewalk Cafe was there, because they were crowded, and then after that, after even they closed, young kids stayed there and in the alley, and most of the time was very noisy. They fought a lot, and we called not only us, the neighbor next to us, which is closer to the alley, and my 2 neighbors that I know of, they called. Even they hear the noise when it's loud and they fight. So that's our main concerns. And I have something else. If the city approves the applicant, we request a condition for the permit. So if it's noisy or if there is complaint about these things, they do something. Thank you.
The noises that you mentioned, are they mainly from individuals that are in the parking lot or in the outdoor dining areas?
No, in the
restaurant?
parking lot.
In the parking lot. Okay, in the parking lot. This is the directly
In the alley.
behind near the alley, correct?
Yes, yes.
So, have you noticed any changes now that the applicant has put up lighting in the parking lot? Has that?
Yes, yes. As I said, there hasn't been noises or fights lately.
Since the recent changes?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you've
I
noticed
hope it stays that way. Yeah.
You hope it stays that way. Okay. So, thank you. And I noticed that you also signed the petition
Yes,
that was
my
submitted
husband
as
did,
well.
yeah.
Your husband did. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in the audience at this time? Because that comes up? No? I see that as a no. All right. So with that said, I'd like a 5-minute rebuttal, but I also have a few questions for the applicant as well.
Should I do the questions first?
However you wish. So yes, that would be fine. Please. Would Mr. Iskandarian come up, or if you're welcome to both come up to the podium, please. Okay. Now, as you noted, there are 31 recommended conditions of approval. A few of those are just standard conditions.
Understood.
Such as obtain the required applications, licenses, and whatnot.
And some are very specific to the location, I noticed.
And
too.
some that are very specific to the location. A few of the items dealt with construction that has been recently done. The repaving of the parking lot.
I'll
without
address that
permits.
to my rebuttal.
Okay. And then also that there's been a glass wall that was installed along the exterior.
Also
along
part of
the
my
prom-
rebuttal.
Okay. So I'm not sure if you'd like to go ahead and address that now,
Thank
or
you.
because there are a few items that are actually zoning standard related.
Okay.
And that specifically deals with that glass wall that it has been installed without permits.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually located within the 5-foot street front setback along both Highland and Glen Oaks Boulevard. So unfortunately, we would not be able to go ahead and permit those glass walls the way they were installed unless you file a variance, and that is, again, a discretionary hearing whether or not you would be able to go ahead and permit it.
They were there prior to that. We just redone them. We took them down and put them back up again.
Yeah, unfortunately, I found no permits
Okay.
whatsoever in the permit packet.
Including there's a bamboo.
Yes, and that was the next comment, that you're welcome to go ahead and put landscaping, and I think that bamboo hedge was specifically there in order to create some sort of barrier from the street to the private dining or outdoor dining area. So you're welcome to go ahead and use landscaping, and actually that's one of my conditions of approval is that you would plant that landscaping within that setback area to soften that look.
We would fully embrace any code required by the zoning department.
Okay.
And to take care of it immediately.
I just wanted-
If we're in violation of anything, we would like to address it immediately. Patrick Panzerl again for the applicant. There was 3 things brought to my attention the last couple of weeks, mostly by the planning department, and one is the outstanding sign permit. And I spoke to the man who actually pulled the permit, Todd, and unfortunately he's out of town until today. He was in Chicago the past 2 weeks, but he's tried to close it. He called one day for an inspection, talked to the inspector. It was not convenient for him to come out that day, and then another day he came out unannounced, but the sign guy was not there. But he told me he would try to get that wrapped up this coming week as he got back into town. I told him that was an outstanding issue with us too. Secondly, we had a contractor go into the Building and Safety Department last Thursday to pull a permit for that window and wall he did at the front of Glen Oaks and on Highland. The contractor himself that did it, they asked him to bring in details of how he anchored it. But there was no concern from planning or zoning at that time, so that may be something that may come in the future. And the second issue is the restriping of the parking lot. He took over and he had it re-blacktopped. It was all cracked and in bad shape, and all the lines were worn out. He had it restriped the same way he had it. And we went back in for a plan. There's an issue with the handicap ramp that may have to be staggered, some of the lines to bring it into current code requirements. When it was done before, it was non-conforming. So since he changed it, he needs to conform now. So we're dealing with that issue also. And those were the three outstanding issues that brought to my attention. But you may have more information from me, too, that I'm not aware of.
No, I'm very pleased to hear that the applicant is willing to go ahead and
Yeah.
address all those issues at this point in time.
We've had several meetings now with Building and Safety and Planning on the restriping. The contractor was there last Thursday, and I will go with him myself probably either tomorrow or Monday, and back to city again. And the sign man, I'm on top of him also. As his consultant and licensing specialist, I'm on top of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So great. Also, the police department, in their recommended conditions of approval, stated the hours of operation, or I should say specifically geared toward the sale of alcoholic beverages, be limited from noon until 9 p.m.
I wonder why that would be.
So I'm just curious, your hours of operation for the two restaurants are 10 to 10?
A little information, just so you know. According to alcoholic beverage control rules, any licensee that serves beer and wine to their customers must serve last call 1/2 hour prior to closing, which in this case would be 9:30 p.m. And that's so the person won't be rushed to finish that last drink or wine or beer, that they have 30 minutes to finish it. And so that's so it would be so all beer and wine would cease at 9:30 p.m. all new service. The hours of 10 p.m. is not that invasive, especially to a bedroom community. We often do till 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and midnight even Friday and Saturday in some bedroom communities. I thought his hours were very user-friendly for this neighborhood. If there are hours that all his restaurants operate from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., it would be, and I could see maybe not offering beer until 11 a.m., but certainly I want to be able to offer it up until closing, 9:30 p.m.
Okay. So, but the hours of operation right now, the two restaurants close at 10 p.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And there are no late hours proposed, and at no time will there be discounted beer and wine.
Okay. And last but not least, you've heard the concerns mentioned both during the hearing, and I'm sure that you've read the letters as well.
I was concerned before I did my presentation originally. That's why I volunteered. I want the Mr. Iskandarian to implement a carpool program where he can find employees that can carpool together and try to schedule their shifts at the same time to reduce that congestion. I also want him to educate his employees proper parking for the neighbors, because as one neighbor mentioned, sometimes that one car will take up 2 spaces or sometimes 3. They'll park in the middle between 2 driveways, rather at the end of one, where a second car can park in front of them. And I can see that would be a concern too. And then also, he will have his managers attend an ABC program called a LEAD program, where they educate the rules and regulations of serving beer and wine too. And that was one of the conditions I noted also from the planning department.
Yes, that's one of our standard conditions,
so-
that they go through that program.
Yes.
Is there any objection to having an employee walk the premises at the end of closing, both for trash and then also to request that anyone, no loitering
I
in the
would like
parking
to
lot?
make that every hour, have a manager walk their premises every hour and just check for loitering and check for trash on the sidewalk and such. And that'll be a routine that'll be scheduled for every shift, that the manager will walk one time every hour on the property. And I also talked to Mr. Iskandarian, too, that he could put a 24-hour hotline phone number at the front door and the back door on a little plaque where someone who has a complaint can call and be addressed within 24 hours.
Okay, thank you. That would be very helpful, I believe. Also, I would like to just point out, and this is something that we can discuss as well, or Vista can bring it, that the outdoor dining, again, as I stated, there's a 5-foot required setback, both along Glen Oaks and Highland. Okay, so according to code, no fencing would be permitted without a variance. And then there's no sidewalk, actually no dining. There's no exception in our zoning code to allow dining in that location. So that's something that, you're welcome to discuss later on with Vista as well.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with that code. I will make myself familiar with it so I can properly address it.
Okay, great. You're welcome to go ahead and either take your 5-minute rebuttal period at this point in time, or...
I'm through. Thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. Iskandarian,
Yeah,
did you have any
No, I just
you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to mention that we put up signs that the property is under surveillance. So we have signs up on the parking lot on both sides of the building that we have surveillance cameras. We also put up no loitering signs everywhere. And the sign also states for patrons to respect our neighbors and to keep the noise level down. So I've really gone above and beyond, and I will do anything it takes to keep the neighbors happy, because I want to keep them happy, because I want them to come to my restaurant, for one, and for two, I really want to be a part of the community. I'm not this greedy restaurant owner that wants to have his cake and eat it too. You know, that's really not the case. I don't want to be looked at that way. I'm a part of the community, and I'd like to help out any way I can. I've really cleaned the place up a lot, like I said. I can't tell you, there's been a couple of times that the police department came down and there was an incident and they asked us for surveillance footage and we gave it to them. You know, there's a real value in a business operator operating his business responsibly, and I'm there every day. Since I've opened up Aros Tacos, I've been there every day. And I'll make sure that we keep the place clean and that we prevent loitering from going on there, you know. But sometimes it comes over from the 7-Eleven, you know, because they really have a problem there.
But you realize that you're responsible for your property.
Yes,
So.
yes.
All right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The case is closed. I will take it under submission and render a decision shortly, which will then be mailed to all parties present. So with that said, this planning hearing officers meeting is concluded. Thank you.